Welcome to Talent Takeover
Unfiltered.
When it comes to working hard and keeping it real, we know our shit. Self-care, happiness, inner peace, and time. I'm Brianna Rooney, and this is Taylor Bradley.
Hey, y'all.
And we have thrived in chaos and turned it into an art form. So, Taylor, what are we doing here today?
We're here to give you a raw, under-the-hood view of all things recruiting and finally give credit where credit is due to a long underrated industry that's full of quote-unquote experts.
All right. Well, then let's take this show to the road. Hey, Talent Takeover Unfiltered coming to you live with Taylor Bradley. What's going on?
It's Friday. That's what's going on. Like, we're recording on a Friday, obviously for it to air on Tuesday, but it feels good. It feels good. It's been a long week. It feels good that we're at the end of it.
It does. And today's actually National Women's Day, week, month. It should be every day, right?
Really should be every day.
I know. I just don't understand. Don't even get me started. Actually, I have a question. Do you like Mother's Day?
Yes. Like, does a bear
do?
shit in the woods? Who doesn't like
I don't
Mother's
know.
Day?
I personally get a little insulted by Mother's Day. Like, why are we have one day to celebrate us? And then, okay, all right. So I'm divorced. Sorry, tangent right now. I'm divorced. And in the divorce, the lawyer was like, okay, so obviously you'll have the kids on Mother's Day and your husband will have the kids on Father's Day. And I was like, can we reverse that? I want to go to the spa on Mother's Day and go celebrate how great I am. I don't know if I want to be with my kids on Mother's Day. I'm with my kids every freaking day.
Yeah. Well, no, that part of it, I get that makes sense. But I feel like it's kind of the same thing as your birthday. Like, you should technically be celebrated every day, but your birthday is
okay, all right, fair.
But I think because on the flip side of that, because we are with the kids every day and you're so just in the thick of it with the routines, the schedules, the school, all of that, shuffling them to and from places. I think it's actually nice to have a day like Mother's Day where it's you do whatever you want to do. If you want to go to the spa, if you want to do whatever, I think it gives you that pass. And for me, it's a guilt-free pass where I'm okay, this is actually my day. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. And then on the flip side of that, Aaron can go golf on Father's Day. Go do whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The lawyer is I'm not going to switch that for you. That doesn't look good. I was like, okay, whatever. Anyways, but this episode is really all focused on how to be a badass woman. You're a badass woman. I feel like I'm a badass woman.
You are. You are indeed. I feel like we both surround ourselves with badass women because, I think that's part of being a badass woman is empowering other women, uplift, surrounding yourself with women that you feel are on your same level, mentally, emotionally, professionally, whatever the case may be. I think that's part of being a badass woman is surrounding yourself with other women that are badasses.
Yeah. So I had a coach tell me you are only as good as your weakest employee, right? And so he goes further and said, you're only as good as the top 5 people around you. So I had to really sit down and be shoot, who do I talk to the most? Who are my top 5 and who am I getting rid of?
Yeah.
Who am I bringing up from the minors? And I think that's super true.
Really at this day and age, the age that we're at, do you really have people, when I see stuff like that, I'm I don't have dead weight around me people because you have so, I feel I have so little time in the day between work, between kids and being mom and being a wife and all of that stuff that it's I feel I have to be really intentional about trying to make time for the people that I want to make time for, and to include my family, right? Not just friends or people I surround myself with, but I can't even imagine being the age that we are and having the time to just have dead weight people around you that are not making you better or uplifting you or are having just a positive impact in your life. Who has time for that?
Well, I'm actually, and for the listeners, I am dying to know this. How many of you feel like you have dead weight? You've had a friend since high school, or maybe you even have a family member that you just can't stand that every single time you talk to them, you are upset afterwards or you feel away or, you feel anything but positive. We want to hear that because I think it's actually super common. I think it's super common for people to give people a pass because they feel some type of loyalty.
I think family's different though. Family, I have to imagine you wouldn't want to talk to that person every day if they're just super negative. But I feel family kind of gets a pass. That's your family, or I know my sense of loyalty to my family is pretty strong. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to cut my family. It would have to be something very, very extreme. And I couldn't even think of an example for me to cut my family off. But I think when it is elective and it's friends, I think it's very easy to cut somebody off that's not serving their purpose in your life. You know what I mean? Or a positive purpose in your life. But it's different to me. Like if somebody's just going through some shit and they're really negative because it's a season of their life. Like that's a completely different situation to me than somebody who is just negative all the time. And I mean, we've talked about it before. I've had to establish boundaries with people in the workplace that I was friends with that were really negative. But ultimately, like that changes the friendship. Is it really a friendship? Would you actually be friends outside of work? You know what I mean?
If you didn't mean my work.
Yeah. And if you didn't work with them still, would that friendship maintain? I feel like that's the testament of true friendships to me, of like, I've had work friends everywhere I go. I have work friends, and I've taken people with me as far as like these people have become my best friends for over 10 years now that we met through work, but they're not dead weight people. They're like, we uplift each other. Now, did we have that original bond through work? Absolutely. But like, we're still buddies, you know, and tight. But yeah, I can't even imagine making time for somebody that is just dead weight or is not uplifting or is super negative, and any exciting thing you have going on, they're just like want to shit all over it. Like, why would you talk to them as an adult when you don't have to, and it's not family that you have to see somewhere at some family function? Like, why keep that person around?
Yeah. So I think that hurts confidence a lot. And I think the part of the recipe, I want to talk about is what makes a badass woman. And first and foremost is confidence. But confidence, I will say, as a whole, can be really hard. And like, I even like how you say the season of your life. The season of your life, your confidence kind of sways and shifts and stuff that. And I think it's so important to have that support, and for me to be, and I've been able to do this with you. So I'm super lucky to have you in my life, and we met through work, but that I can come to you and just kind of just be like, shit is just not okay.
And you know what? And to get into our friendship specifically, what's really matters a lot to me is that like, you're positive. Like everybody knows you're infectiously positive, but you also validate me. And that's really important. Like if I'm going through something or something happens, you're not like, well, you'll get some sleep or take a Xanax or go have a drink and you'll feel better tomorrow. And it's just, like you validate how I feel. And then we talk about like how we're going to move forward. And same thing with you. Like we validate each other. And I think that's really important for me in my friendships. I need to feel validated and not like as positive of a person as whoever can be, that it's not like they already want you to push through to the other side without just like, sometimes you just need to get it out and you need to just bitch and vent and then know that it's going to be okay. But I actually feel like there's just such a good release that I get from just like getting it out instead of internalizing it and thinking about it and obsessing over it. And then that is part of my process that helps me move forward, is like, here's what's going on. I need to get it out. I need to talk to somebody that understands and that can relate to me or relate to the situation, and then move forward. But yeah, I think it's really important to have those people around you, like have the relationship and that dynamic where you can feel validated, but also they're not going to let you like stay stuck and wallow in it, like.
Yeah, like stay in the fetal position and just bitch and complain. Yeah. I will say over the course as I've gotten older, like I've kind of found my way with that, because like you said, like my nature is like, okay, let's just pick you back up. Right.
Yeah.
And then I realized it's not very helpful. Right. And then how long do you let someone vent versus do you just want to vent, or do you actually want my opinion? Do you want my advice? Like those are all, an interesting thing, but like, I mean,
like what every man says about us, like every man goes through with women is like, do you want my opinion? Do you want to vent? Like what's happening here?
What are we doing? Well, I actually go through that with my brother, believe it or not. It's, it's because, he's 25, right? And so 39, 40 this year. He goes to everybody and wants different advice, but it's like, well, that's kind of a recipe for disaster, because you ask 5 different people, you got 5 different opinions. So then now it's like, where do you go? So I've actually been really clear, because he's like, you're so harsh sometimes. And I'm like, dude, do you want, like, what do you want from me? Like, please tell me. And so I actually had that hard conversation with him just so we could get closer.
Yeah.
I know he's not a woman. We're talking about women, but same thing.
No, we're talking about relationships. And I think that's really important to have that. And then like to have women that are not that don't always view you as competition. I feel like it's just one of those things that's like when I find the people I connect with, and especially at our age, I like latch on, I hold on to them because women are so competitive with other women and actually typically do tend to take the approach of being competitive or like wanting to shit all over something that you have going on. And, you know, I think I could go into like how where I think this stems from. And I don't think social media helps, you know, with how we all
Yeah.
feel about each other and comparing.
I
What?
actually think that that's a really either just great episode or even like a live webinar with like an Ask Me Anything kind of thing, because why do we compete with each other? Like, how do we communicate and move forward as like a unit, right? Like, I think that's a totally like, how do we empower women in general?
Yeah.
But like for last night, I'm at the science fair with Lima, and you know, I'm
Uh-huh.
talking to moms and stuff, and her birthday's coming up. And so I definitely go all out for parties. And so they
Yeah.
remember the last year. And so they're talking to me and they're like, oh my God, you go all out for parties. Like, I can't do one as good as you. My son always, or my daughter always wants one like you do, you know? And it's like, I don't think they realize that they're trying to compliment me and they are complimenting me, but I'm
Yeah.
like, am I supposed to like be like, sorry? Am I supposed like, you know, like immediately we're kind of like, there's this like competition where I'm like, are you happy that I do this? Are you giving me a hard time that I go all out? Like, where are we going with this? And I'm trying, you know, and I talk to
Yeah.
myself, I'm like, look, intentions are good. Intentions are good. I'm not supposed to feel away, you know?
Yeah. Well, okay.
But
So, and
what
I
do you do?
agree with that lady about your parties, but I'm like here to tell you, be the voice of reason. That's a compliment, and but I think that that's
For
less of
sure.
like
Yeah.
a competition thing versus like a mom guilt thing of like you're so creative and the stuff you're able to throw together, and it's just awesome because I have other friends exactly like you, like same as you. Y'all are all I
Mhm.
put in this category of like very creative and are able to just those things come naturally to you, and so it is something like we could talk about competition, confidence, and then the mom guilt is a whole nother category where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's what she's able to do for her kids. I envy that. I should be able to do that for my kids. Why doesn't that come easier for me? Why is this like, you know, I think that's probably where she's coming from there is more of like a envy and kind of mom guilt of like, I would love to be able to do something as good as that for my kids. And you throw the best parties and things like, cause it's true, you do. So I think that was totally a compliment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I like that you hit it because now it becomes a lot more clear. It was her mom guilt coming through. And I
Mom
guess
guilt.
on the other side, it's like, how am I dealing with her mom guilt to help her feel good? You know? So now it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Oh,
even know how I vibe that.
that's a great thing to ask yourself of like, to kind of see through what she's doing there and like how did I respond and knowing that this is now knowing that it's mom guilt, did I fuel that, did I make her feel like what did you say?
I actually just said, oh, thank you so much. I love throwing parties. And she's like, you
Yeah.
just live on Pinterest, don't you? And I'm like, you know, I love Pinterest, you know? And so it was just
Yeah.
like, you know, yay. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, but I think that goes back to how would a badass woman handle that?
Yeah.
You know, without the mom guilt. So it's like, hey, can't wait to go to Lima's party. You rock the parties. We look forward to it all the time. You know, oh my
Yeah.
God, do you live on Pinterest? Where do you find your ideas? I don't know. I think like the way that we word things, and I hate to like go into like, oh, you got to really think about your words and pause and do all these things. But I think it's just knowing how your words make other people feel. But like, so if I'm going to have mom guilt with you, how does that make you feel? Even though that's my mom guilt, you know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to take away the compliment, you know, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on a weird tangent here. I don't even know how to handle that just because I know the guilt. Like I have to talk to myself all the time. Nope, not
Yeah.
guilty today. Not doing
Yeah.
it.
Oh my God. I'm like all the time, like, am I going to guilt myself over this? Am I not? It's like the amount of thinking I do about thinking about feeling guilty is just fucking insane to me. I'm like, the mom thing, I tell my husband all the time. I tell Aaron, like, it's a category that you can't, just because you're a parent doesn't mean you understand mom guilt. It is something that is in a league
Yeah.
of its own. It's completely different. It just happens. It's like a switch somebody flicks on once you have kids. And I mean, I guess maybe not for everybody. I shouldn't label that for everybody, but for a lot of people I know. And so I think it just becomes one of those things that's like it eats away at you and you have to just talk yourself out of it. But I mean, I think that right there is kind of a great example of like, she was probably coming to you, having been that person before that she is, and knowing the place I was
Yeah.
coming from was like, she was trying to compliment you and say, because mom guilt is like such a thing, you and I have another friend that throws really great parties too. And I think I've said those same exact things to her about like, man, I just wish I wish this came naturally. You do it with so much ease. You have so much fun doing it. It doesn't seem like something that is just like a daunting another task that you have to do. And it goes off without a hitch. It's so creative. And you think that you're giving them a compliment. You know, you're like really like as a mom to mom, I'm trying to give you a compliment because I'm sure that you put a lot into these parties and probably stress about if it's going to be good enough. And so I think naturally we compare ourselves to other moms. So to have a mom tell you, I think this is, I wish I could do this like you, like trying to hype you up. I think that right here is the example of like the competition. Like you don't know if to take that as a compliment or if she's actually trying to, you know, be passive aggressive, like maybe a little critical. Like we automatically go into competition mode sometimes.
Yes. Okay. I love that we're talking about this. So a recipe to be a badass woman is know how to take a compliment.
Yeah, that's a perfect one. Like to summarize this, know how to take a compliment and take compliment guilt-free, I think is too. Like
guilt-free.
Without feeling guilty about it. I think we could go into other things with like make decisions without feeling guilty about it, whether that's do something for yourself and don't feel guilty about it. Take time. You need to go to the spa, take a break, you know, like take a break from the kids, take a break from whatever and do it guilt-free. That's another way to be a badass woman is like make whatever decision you're making, do it without guilt.
Yep, exactly. Own your decisions. Own your decisions, learn from the failures, talk about them. And I also think talking about how you failed is a recipe to be a badass woman. So not just like, oh, I'm failing behind the scenes, but now I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about the shit that I did in order to one, vent, but also to help.
Yeah.
You know, and also to say like, look, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Like we're not trying to have this like facade.
Yeah. So it's like own your decisions, own your failures. I think that's the other, going back to like what we're talking about with social media, that's the shit that drives me crazy about social media is that it's creating this thing. And I think about it more, not for myself, but for my kids. And they obviously don't have it yet, but as they grow up and, you know, we didn't grow up with that. I'm like, what effects is this going to have on them, on their confidence, on literally everything, but you can't keep them from it. Like there is no keeping them from social media for their entire lives. Like it's not going to happen. You know, eventually your kids are probably going to make the decision, whether they be 22 or whatever, like they're going to be adults to be able to make that decision as much as you want to like keep them from it as they're growing up. It's going to happen.
Yeah. You know what? I don't want to tangent on this because I honest to God can make this an episode. Because you know how I feel about school not really helping the way that it needs to. But honestly, with all of the fraud and all of the facade, I actually really think this should be a lesson in school. Like, yes, parents should do their own thing, but we can't always rely on parents. It's freaking hard, right? But I think this really should be a lesson in school. People are getting taken advantage of left and right. People are, unfortunately, you know, committing suicide because they see this really great life on the other side and they don't have it. And I think that that's really scary. So I think going back to how to be a badass woman is it's like, look, take it with a grain of salt. Like you might see, you know, I know we all have friends whose social media looks way better than you know it is, right?
Yeah.
So like just take it as a grain of salt. Like, look, it's not healthy to compare. We all do it, but it's just not healthy. Like so to be a badass woman, you know, and own your own uniqueness and you just strut it, you know, on however you want to strut it, you strut it. So I think that's kind of like, you know, thinking about your quirks. See, I can't even say that word right. But think about like, you know, like, look, you make yourself laugh. You laugh at your own jokes. Good for you. You know, like whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. I think that we are in a day and age where, again, I don't want to harp on this, but like social media has created what I feel like our generation had a lot more confident women that like, you know, who we are was shaped more by our actual experiences versus like social media or what we see online or life that we're pretending to have or live up to, like their actual experience. So I feel like, again, it scares me with the women that are in these younger generations that grow up on social media. I mean, we see it already with like the different plastic surgery starting so young.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's another thing that like mind blown at, you know, parents that literally have to sign the form because the kid is 17 to get like lip filler or whatever it is. It's like, I don't think this stuff would exist if social media didn't exist, this stuff and having this confidence. So I think it's going to be really, really important for us, especially the people that are raising women like you are with Lima, to like just make sure that she's really, really confident before she gets in this social media stage eventually that she will get into, and like knowing what's real, what's fake, and just feeling so confident in herself that she doesn't give a shit what she sees on there or what somebody else, like life somebody else has, which is hard to do because we all look at it, we're like, we know it's fake, but we have to still remind ourselves of that sometimes because you see something, you're like, well, shit, that house looks awesome. Like, I would love to have that house. And how did this person, they're 10 years younger, how did they get that house? Like you can go down that
you
path.
don't know how much debt they're in, their family gave it to. There's just so much, right?
So much.
So I think another one that kind of relates to this and how to be a badass woman is to not apologize for your success.
Yes.
I
That's
think
like a
that
big one.
women do that a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I know I've struggled with that a little bit, and you reach a level where it's like you're trying to like downplay what you've accomplished, downplay how much money you have and stuff. But you got to own that, it's like you worked hard for it. Nobody gave it to you.
Yeah. I was just writing that down as you were saying, like, don't make yourself small for other people.
Oh, you just gave me the chills.
I just think that, like, as you're saying that, I'm like, you have to just, it feels like you're just like trying to downplay, like you're making, I feel like it's mostly related to like either, a dynamic with a man and a woman, like a spouse or significant other, whereas a woman, you feel like you have to make yourself smaller to make them feel better. Or even in friendships, those friendships that we were talking about where I don't think I have any of those. I doubt you have any of those, but where
I used to. Yeah.
You feel like you have to make yourself small to like make them feel better. No.
No, I used to have plenty of those, but yeah, those are gone. So thank God. Which brings me to being authentic.
Yeah.
So I think being authentic, you have to be authentic in order to be a badass woman. That goes back to the owning your uniqueness, right? It's kind of like the same thing. And I think that it's respected and it's like attractive, like you're one of them. I feel like I have two friends, that really own this really well, which is crazy because I feel like all my friends should own this well, but just two, you're one of them that really owns who you are, doesn't apologize, take it, leave it, love you, I'll give it back, and I could say anything to you and you're not going to judge me. And I know you're not going to feel away and you might make fun of me afterwards and that's fine.
No,
because we're laughing about it anyways, but like,
yeah.
I feel like I could have, this is weird. I have a little spy cam in your house as you're talking to your husband and I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. Like whatever you said, I feel like I'd be fine with, and I feel like I only really truly have two friends like that I feel that way.
I feel the same. So we're like this episode's going to end up turning about our friendship, but I feel the same way. Like you, it's a friendship that we have that there is really no judgment, which I mean, maybe we should tell our listeners one day how our dynamic started and where it, like how it evolved into what it is, because I think that it took a while for you to just be like, she's not a fucking bitch. She's just actually like, she's just really honest. And it's like sometimes to a fault. I own that. It's sometimes to a fault. But I feel like with you, I can get honesty as well. Like you're going to tell me the truth and shoot it to me straight and do it in a way that like, you're not going to try to hurt my feelings, but you also know that I can take it if it's the truth. And I feel like we're the same. Like I'm the same way with you. I know I can tell you the truth. You can take it. And I think that that's like the core of that, like having relationships with women that you can really trust in that way. And I think I've got two friends like that too. And you're one of them where it's like, I can tell you anything and I know you're not going to judge me. I know you're going to help me get through it. I know that you're going to let me bitch if I need to. I know if, back in the day, if I was dating an asshole, say we were friends in high school and I'm dating an asshole or college or whatever. And you're like, yeah, he's an asshole, but you're the friend that's not going to judge if you go back. Same thing. It's like, there's a no judgment friendship. And I think everybody, like, I would hope everybody has at least one of those. Like,
I really think to be a badass woman, you have to have no judgment, at the end of the day. Yeah. 100%. Which brings me to the next one, which is kindness. Yeah. Because a lot of people think, and going back to literally what you just said, if you shoot it real, that there's no kindness there. No, what's like your intention? That has nothing to do with anything at all. Like, no, you're just you're really kind.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important to be a badass woman. And I think that we talk about throughout the podcast, like being assertive,
Yeah.
also is a trait of a badass woman, but that very quickly turns into aggressive bitch.
Yes.
So it's like that fine line. And it's almost like, could we all just like kumbaya, hold hands and be like, these are our intentions and they're good and they're always
Yeah.
good, but that's not always the case. I mean, think about how many badass women,
Yeah. And
that
I
you
mean,
would
it
put
goes,
into that category.
it's so true. And it really does go back to the trust of like, I trust that you're telling me whatever you're telling me with the best of intentions. Like you are not saying this to hurt me. And I think that goes back to what we've already talked about, like having confidence in yourself and even confidence in your friendships. Like I'm so confident in this friendship I have with this person that I know that they're not telling me something just to try to hurt me. They're actually telling me this because they care about me. I think it's being able to see through the words. And like you said, the intention is this person's telling me a hard truth. Like what you said about your brother, that example that you used, like they're telling me a hard truth because they actually give a shit about me. You don't want yes people or yes men or women around you that are actually enabling bad behavior or things that are bad for you. You want, it's like an actual indication that somebody gives a shit about you if they will tell you those hard truths versus just,
thank you.
Go do
yes,
that.
because they don't have to say anything. Yeah, it's like,
No.
do whatever you want to. Fine.
Yeah. You put yourself in a situation when you tell somebody the truth where you're like, shit, I don't know how they're going to handle this, but like, I feel like I'm not being authentic to myself or to them or to our relationship if I don't tell them how I really think this situation or the truth about this situation or how I really think they should approach it. But I think that's where women tend to get the labels of like being super sensitive, because I think that oftentimes we don't try to see the best in each other and the best in each other's intentions. It's just, I even think back, in the start of our relationship, but just the dynamic of the organization, there was, for whatever reason, and it wasn't specific to me and you, I just think back in the beginning of our relationship, the dynamic of the organization we were in, there's so many women that it was just like so much competition and I'm not even sure why. You know what I mean? Like nobody's in the same job. Nobody's like, I don't understand it a lot. Like it doesn't come natural to me to just be, unless I'm in a competition or playing a sport, to be competitive with other people just for the fuck of it. I don't know. I don't really know I don't really understand that mentality. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm so great because I don't have that in me. Of course I could be competitive. I just don't understand to like meet a woman. We're competing instantly. Like everybody's competition. Yeah. I don't have that mentality.
Which goes nicely into the next one, which is set boundaries.
Yeah. Okay.
In order to be a badass woman, you have to set boundaries, speak up and be like, nope, that doesn't work for me. That's not okay. I don't like how you did that. It's because if you just keep on taking it and taking it and taking it, it's like, how are you going to rise up? And how are people going to know how to treat you? Because that's something I learned later on is you teach people how to treat you.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think learning your boundaries for people is really like one of the most powerful things that you could do. Man, woman, that's not even specific to women, but like learning your boundaries and sticking to them. And then just if something no longer serves you or isn't aligning with your boundaries, it just like get rid of it, just get rid of it. And I think women, sometimes we also, so this is a trait of a non-badass woman, but should be like a badass woman, will just cut things off that aren't serving them anymore. It's being able to walk away from things that just, it's not serving you. It doesn't make sense. It's not good for your mental health, physical health, whatever it is. It's just like, be able to walk away. And that can be really hard. That could be personal. That could be professional. That could be really hard to do. But I think prioritizing yourself would be another trait of a badass woman.
Yep. Choosing you. I choose me, I think that goes with self-love, self-care, however you want to look at that. But it's like, choosing you, choosing to put yourself first and knowing it's because that will serve your life in its entirety. But it is hard to do. It is hard, especially when like you're looking at like, this is extreme, but it's like, all right, you have a massage appointment and all of a sudden your kid's sick. You're like, damn it.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm supposed to choose me. Or like, well, maybe not in this particular situation. But no, I think we struggle with choosing ourselves because that goes back to the whole guilt situation. Yeah. Which is hard. And then I'm going to leave us with one. one more. I know that there's more on what to be a badass woman. This one might feel a little confrontational, so I'm gonna let's see how it goes. But I think in order to be a badass woman, you are independent and financially independent is what I mean by that. That you work for yourself, work for what you need. And the reason why I feel like it's probably a little confrontational is because, there's tons of stay-at-home moms, but there's also stay-at-home dads, so it's like, I don't want that to be like, well, I take care of the kids. So that's different. Right.
Yeah.
But I think going like, look, I have to pick my future. I have to work hard for it. And I choose to be independent in this. How do you feel?
I feel like in certain situations, like I completely agree with that of like what I specifically go to, like if you're in a horrible, toxic situation, abusive, whatever it is, and you have to stay because you're financially dependent upon somebody, like that obviously would make you feel like a badass woman. And I'm not knocking anybody that's in that situation, by the way, but I'm just saying like that's where I agree with you that I think being financially independent to not be stuck in some situation that is awful for you as a human being or like awful for you as a woman or whatever the case is. But I do think, I don't know, that's a weird one. That's a tricky one for me because I think that there's a lot of relationships and dynamics where both the husband and wife are financially dependent upon each other. It's like, we may have a certain life that we couldn't have if it was just my salary or if it was just your salary. So I think there is like a little bit of codependence there, but I think as a rule of thumb, you should always be able to walk away from any situation without being stuck in it if it's not serving you, and hopefully have the means to be able to do that. And if you don't, like at least the figure it out mentality. You know what I mean? Like even if you may not be able to, I think that makes somebody a badass woman. Like I may not have the means to do this, but I will figure it out. I'll work 3 jobs. I'll do what I have to do. But I do understand that like not everybody's in that situation because there are circumstances that have put them in a situation where they're financially dependent upon somebody. That is a controversial one.
Yeah. And I actually had to have a talk with my mom about this because I told her that I was money motivated because of her, because I saw she wasn't able to leave a situation because of money. And she definitely took that away. And I was like, no. I want you to feel empowered by this. And like, you did show me in a different type of way. For me, I don't want to make hard decisions, or I don't want to stay in a situation like you were talking about because I don't have money to take care of myself, which is, I like how you put it. It's a figure it out. Like it might not be today, but I'm going to figure it out, squirrel it away, and do whatever I need to do in order to survive. But I think that's put in a better way.
Yeah. I think we're at time here, which like everything we've said in this entire episode is the broke to boss tip. It's, don't make yourself small for others. Have the figure it out mentality, have confidence, don't compete with other women. All of these things are great broke to boss tips for me, like all in one episode. And I think it's just like pick one, pick the one that resonates with you the most. And I would say for me, out of all of this, the one that resonates with me is don't view other women as competition automatically. Like I go into situations with new women that I meet of like, could this be my next Brianna, my next best friend? Like, could this person, versus viewing them as competition, like this could be one of my people that's in my foxhole.
I love your foxhole. I had to dig for that.
Yeah.
I love it. So celebrate women, unite, come together. We are always stronger as a unit. So thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.